morning, everyone. We are Mortgage Pros 411. I'm Audrey Boissonou, and I'm here with my co-host, Kevin Casey. We are so thrilled to have Cindy Ertman with us today, coach, strategist extraordinaire. So we'll come back to that in a moment. Just wanted to let people know what's coming up this week. As always, it's a full week of holy moly in the industry. So tomorrow, we have... Good Lord. Okay, so that's Wednesday. Tomorrow's Wednesday.
Yeah.
Today's Tuesday. Very important to know. Okay, so tomorrow we have the Fed minutes, and we know that could move markets. Like the market isn't moving enough already today. We'd like to move it into the green, but no promises because everything's a little volatile right now. Thursday we have the second look at Q4 GDP. Friday we have new home sales and PCE, which is personal consumption expenditure. Kevin likes it when I spell out the acronyms. And our next Fed meeting is March 22nd. So a lot to look forward to in this short week. So just, stay hooked up, people. Watch what's going on and just, be aware of locking. Don't expect things to get better short term. In the next 30 days, it's probably going to be more locking is what we're hearing. So just stay vigilant, right? Kevin, anything?
Well, I was going to say rates aren't volatile. They're just going up every day. That's not volatile.
Okay. Thank you, hyperbole. That's great. So with that, I also heard, speaking of what's happening, there's a little rumor that FHA might be cutting their MIP tomorrow by 30 basis points. So keep tuned for that. That'd be nice. Nice little change in the right direction. So
yeah, that would be.
I know, right? We've been waiting, and here we are, maybe. Okay, so Cindy, you are the CEO and founder of the Defining Difference. So you do success-based coaching, and you started in this business as an LO. So tell us a little bit about your history and evolution and how you got to where you are today.
Well, yes. I mean, I was a loan originator for 35 years. So basically my whole career. I, like many of us, ended up in this business by accident. I actually worked for a real estate development company in Los Angeles, and we were owned by an S&L, and we were shut down by the federal government during the S&L crisis. And I was pregnant with my first baby, and I remember thinking, okay, well, what the heck am I going to do now? And a very good friend of mine said, I hear this mortgage origination business is like the best kept secret for women. And I just thought, well, I don't want to be like a loan rep, but she intrigued me. So I started looking into it, and I researched the #1 loan center in Southern California, which at the time was California Federal Savings and Loan in Brentwood, California. And I cold called them and showed up on their doorstep. And 2 months later, they hired me, and away we went, for a very big career, and transferred into the broker world for about 8 years and ran a broker shop, and then got recruited away by a mortgage banker. And we put together an in-house lending relationship for the largest privately owned real estate company in Los Angeles. And I ran that for 13 and a half years. And then my partner and I, we had our own small mortgage bank until the 2007 hit, and we could not make it through that storm. So then we went in search of a mortgage banking partner, and we selected RPM Mortgage, and they hired us to build Southern California for them. So I was really fortunate. I mean, I had coaches from the time I started. I was on the faculty. If you guys remember the old Loan Toolbox days, they were the largest mortgage training company in America for many years. And I was on the faculty with Tim Brahim for 17 years. Coaching, teaching, training for them. And then within our own organization, we built Southern California, did a lot of recruiting, and built my own business to about 200 million in personal production. So, and it was just an absolutely fun, amazing ride all the way around. But at the end of my career, I just realized, my LO career, that my passion was I was pouring into people to help them grow. And my passion was just all about helping people create growth opportunities and build realtor partnerships, because I'd become masterful in that, being an in-house lender for a real estate company for so many years. And it was all about creating value propositions that made a difference to help the realtors build their business. And so I just decided it was time for me to launch my own coaching and training company. So 10 years ago, I launched my coaching and training company and I built it, and they came, and I get to, encourage top originators to grow on a consistent basis. And I love it. It's definitely, I'm in my passion and my purpose for sure.
That is a beautiful thing. So just out of curiosity, while you were pumping out 200 million a year, were the rates 2%?
Rates were definitely not 2%, and it's so perspective, as you know, because you've been doing this a long time too, is always so interesting because, you do have to find ways to be successful in any market. And obviously, I think that's what made 2022 so difficult for so many originators, is to come off a season where it was like literally raining loans. And it reminded me of my biggest year in personal production was 2003. And I hit 230 million that year. And it was very similar, where like all the stars aligned, right? Rates had dropped. There was the market was strong. People felt comfortable in real estate. And I remember we were doing like 8 loan apps a day. But the thing that was amazing is I had built the systems and the team and the processes to be able to really capitalize on that market. And one of the things I saw happen in 2020 and 2021, as I'm sure you did, is that came from like thin air, COVID hitting, we shut down to nothing. I did a free webinar in April 2020 called How to Manage During Challenging Times. I literally created it over a weekend, put one post out on Facebook, sent one email, and got 650 people that signed up for a free webinar, because our business came to a stop, if you recall.
Right.
Yes.
And it just went, then it just exploded. So nobody was really prepared. And I think that's what I've really been working with people on is, look, I think 2023 is going to be a much more solid year. Yes, we've got the spike up in rates right now, but overall predictions is we should start to see that turn as we move forward this year. But there's been such a pent up housing demand because, there was no inventory in 2022. And at least every one of my clients that I'm talking to nationwide, they're getting much more activity. But we've got to cast wider nets. And so that's what I work really closely with my coaching clients on is, how do you really get in front of more people? How do you educate people about what's going on in the market? And how do you really explain to them and educate them on why they really need to look to buy now? Because I personally, if it were me and I was in the housing market, I wouldn't wait till rates drop. I'd be buying right now, because we're already back to multiple offers in most cities across the country.
Yes.
Yeah, no, and right now, at least you have a good shot at getting the house. I had a client who, they made offers, and they called me after they made the offer. And I was like, what were you thinking? But they made, there's $1 million condo in Marin County, and they made an offer of $1 million. And I'm like, well, what were you thinking? Like, and it's so funny because it's like, what do you mean? We offered $1 million. They're asking $995. I'm like, and we offered $1 million. I'm like, no. Did you want to win the first spot or the third spot? And they're like, well, we got third. I go, yeah, I know. And they go, how did you know? I go, because you had 2 spots. It went just a little bit over $1 million in order to get that house, because they knew that $3,000 or $4,000 extra didn't make any difference to their payments, but it would make a difference to that seller and would have put you over the top when you made your offer. 5 other people.
And just to throw a few little numbers at people, 54% of properties are selling in less than 30 days right now. So if they're priced right, they're selling quickly.
Yep.
Did you know that 37% of the homes in America are owned free and clear? I didn't realize that number. I think it's crazy.
That's a huge number, Audrey. I had no idea. 37%.
It's a huge number. Yes, 37%. We have 980,000 listings right now, down from 970 last month. But we had 4 million listings in 2007, and we had tens of millions less people in this country at that point. So it is really important. Household formations this year, they're expected to be 1.9 million household formations. Builders are building 1.4 million houses this year. We're way under what we're going to need. So again, once we hit that sort of plateau in November, where inflation leveled off a little bit and the rates started coming down, again, we keep promising it's not a straight trajectory. We know that, but they're headed in the right direction, and there's a lot of pent up demand out there. So it is our job to get out there and get it, right, Cindy?
Yep.
100%. You know, one tool that I've always loved, and when I was doing presentations to my real estate offices, I used it a lot, was the MBS Highway Real Estate Report Card. And I find it so useful in this kind of a market because the real estate report card definitely shares the past 5 years appreciation, right? And it predicts the next 5 years appreciation. And I was looking, I still have that. And I was looking at it the other day for one of my realtor partners, because I still meet with my realtors because I have a team that took over my production business. So I'm not involved on the loan process, but I'm still involved in relationships, right? So, but I was meeting with a realtor and I told her about this report card and she said, could you run that for me? So I did. We did 6 different zip codes because you didn't used to be able to do it. It was based on county. Now zip code, or you can even plug in the MLS number for the particular house. But it's amazing to see what still projected appreciation can be over the next 5 years to help a borrower get over that hump. You know, to just be able to convince them that, hey, you know, you need to go another 25 grand over because look at what your anticipated appreciation is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I love the fact on that report card too, it shares how many potential buyers are actually, you know, available for purchase in your county. The numbers are staggering to really look at, you know, the number of renters and the number of people that actually can buy. So yeah, I'm a big fan of showing people why it's important to buy now and not being fearful of higher rates, because we know rates are temporary, but getting that home secured right now. I believe very passionately that if you are a homeowner in today's market or looking to purchase a home, that now is very much the time if you can qualify. And it's our job to educate them. And so
educate. That's why we throw these numbers at people, because first of all, I mean, realtors are starting to listen to this because they need that information. They're working with clients who are watching these headlines and thinking the sky's falling and everything's going to HE double toothpicks, and you know they're going to get a great deal if they just wait it out, and they don't understand it at all. And so it's our job to make sure that they have the right information and they can counteract those inaccurate headlines. Let's just call them that.
absolutely.
All right. So when you are speaking to people right now, what are you seeing that's working out there for LOs who are actually closing loans?
Well, and I fortunately have many clients and a few that actually were up 20% last year, not too many. And the one thing that I really saw last year is nobody really got off unscathed in 2022. I mean, it really did impact everybody. And I was so amazed at even some of the nation's top producers that I coach. I mean, the calls I was getting, because it impacted people's confidence like nobody's business. I mean, I had one of my clients say, I just feel like my realtors no longer trust me. I don't want to call my realtors. I feel like everybody just went under lockdown and got so overcome with fear that nobody was out doing the daily activities that really generate, you know, new relationships in business. And I understand the why, but now it's time to be like, okay, we're not going to look in the rearview mirror anymore regarding 2022. It is a new year. And if we want to be successful, we have to focus on daily activities that will generate new relationships. And we do have to cast a wider net because our realtors aren't doing as many transactions as they were doing. So we've got to probably, and I don't agree with some people's perspective on this, but I really think if you were targeting 20 realtors, it's time to target 40. You know, some of my most successful clients have gotten very successful in other states because that's the beauty of COVID. Like you can now lend anywhere. So many people have expanded to different states where they have other relationships, but certainly into other cities. And I think it's important to really start to expand, you know, your sphere. I think we don't do a great job of really tapping into the sphere that we have. And I was guilty of this myself. You know, I remember I've gone to the same CPA for 25 years. And I was probably 10 years in with Gary before I ever asked my own CPA to work with me. I mean, I look at that and I was like, that's so silly. But the reality is the one day I said, you know, Gary, I've never even talked to you about doing your mortgage business. You've been here forever. clearly you can see my tax returns, I'm successful at what I do, but I'd love to have the opportunity to work with some of your clients. Would you be open to that? And he's like, well, absolutely. And I got a transaction the very next week, but we do need to ask. And, I don't have it with me today to share, but I put together a financial planner script, and I decided that I didn't have any financial planners in my bucket and I needed to expand my own sphere with a financial planner. So I put together the script and I made a decision. I was going to call 5 financial planners, get meetings with 5. And so I went, and it was the easiest thing in the world, because I didn't call the financial planners asking to get business from them. I called the financial planner saying, I'm looking for a great financial planner that can take care of my client base. And I want somebody that I can know, like, and trust, that I would feel comfortable referring to a financial planner, because I don't have a financial planner in my resource guide. And I really want to develop a relationship with a great financial planner or 2, so that I have a great person to refer my clients that need that service. And of course, they said yes to the meeting, because I'm offering to refer them business and to build a relationship with them. And I got those meetings within a week and went and met with the 5 financial planners, and I selected 2. One today is my personal financial planner. I went on to start a network group. He was in my network group for 14 years and, built an incredible relationship. And I would go into his office twice a year and present for 15 minutes. My partner and I would show up and do a quick little presentation on the mortgage climate and what was going on with interest rates and the financial market. And we would just, every single time we presented to them, we got so many leads right after we would do those meetings. So if you do not have a financial planner like in your sphere, highly recommend that you expand. It's not hard to get meetings. And I prefer going after the guys that are independent financial planners that have their own firms. So they're not, because you guys know that, if they're tied to the big entities like the JP Morgans, they all have their own lending entities. So I focus more on local financial planners and built 2 different relationships that were very, very successful in my own career.
They also tend to have better control over their clients.
100%.
People are coming to them as who they are, not because they work for Merrill Lynch or,
Right. And I was honest with them. When I went and met, I have a series of questions for financial planners, just because I know how they think now, because I've worked so closely with my financial planner over the years. But I had a series of questions to ask them. And then one of my final questions in the meeting was, look, we know relationships are built on who we know, like, and trust. But if we were able to develop a trusting relationship with each other over time, would you be open to a reciprocal relationship? And the 2 that I selected said, yeah, absolutely. And it was one of the easiest relationships to build, and then he went on to become my financial planner. And then I offered to give him recommendations for clients that were looking at his services. And so he would use my name as a client that was satisfied. And then, we had a very symbiotic relationship for many years in terms of referrals. So it just was, I don't know, it was one of the best relationships that I had in addition to my realtor partners.
I did this.
Go ahead.
Your comment about presenting the mortgage climate to the financial advisors. Because I know when I talk to a financial advisor, we go off and start chatting about the market, and they talk about the stock market, and I talk about the mortgage market and how they correlate with each other. And it's very symbiotic, the 2 businesses. We manage debt, they manage assets, but they all interact together. So it's
true. And we would go in and present, we would be conscious of, okay, if you're looking at financial planner, obviously they want to keep as much of their clients' assets under management, right? So we would talk about low down payment programs. We would talk about FHA loans. We would talk about, look, we're really cognizant that, you don't want your clients depleting all of their assets with you, but we have lots of different options. So just being aware of that. And you're right, Kevin, they wanted what we had to share. I put them on my drip campaign, so they got my information every week. And they needed it and they wanted it. So I think it's a great avenue, because I get people constantly saying, I don't really want to build realtor partnerships. I love building realtor partnerships because that was just how I gained my success. And I think focusing on how to help your realtor partners be more successful this year is key to your success. And most of my clients that are doing really well are doing lunch and learns and presentations and are communicating with their referral partners weekly. And they really are they're in partnership. I was in partnership with my agents. And it's never been easier to get meetings right now because they desperately need the education and they're seeking it.
I think the most telling thing that you said was that you had a CPA who saw your numbers for a decade, but you still had to say, hey, dude, maybe we could do business together. I mean, I think some of us just think, well, isn't it obvious? Like, why?
I know
why
it's
would
true.
you
And it
want
should
to?
be, right? It should be.
And right. Hello, but it's not. And it's a really great reminder to us that we have to be proactive instead of reactive, which I know that all we've done for the last couple of years is react, right? We reacted to all the crazy things that were flying at us, but loans were flying at us and then they stopped, screech. And so then we had 2022, and I think it caught us all off guard because even those of us who knew that there was going to be a shift, we didn't anticipate the shift to be doubling and sometimes more of interest rates.
Who did? Nobody.
Right. Well, and that's where I'm so off of projections right now. I'm like, when NBA says, okay, first quarter is going to be a little rougher than Q4 was, okay, I'll buy that. Q2 should be better. Yeah, it's spring, of course. So I'll buy that. But beyond that, these people who want to prognosticate about what's coming, yeah, whatever. You know what I mean? All we can do is focus on, are we taking the steps
100%.
in our business that are going to create business coming to us? So let's talk for a moment about systems and process. And let me preface this by saying, I hated systems and process forever. Let's just go with forever. It is literally in the last few years that I have begun to see the value. I started off as a processor. I worked for my mother, who was a mortgage broker, and I became an LO. I never learned systems and process and really had that sort of airy fairy, oh, if we're supposed to do a loan together, we will. Baloney. So I now understand that's a bunch of bupkis, and that systems and processes are the way forward. But a lot of LOs really bulk against it. They feel like it's crimping their freedom. They don't want to be told what to do. So let's talk about how important that is and what that can look like.
Well, I'd want to encourage people to think about it from a different vantage point, because if you create replicatable systems and processes, first of all, it makes it easier to do a loan. I mean, it's what everyone balks about is having to do it on the front end, because I'm not a systems and process person either. My brain isn't wired that way, but I like organization. But I learned very quickly that without them, you can't build a sustainable business. You can't scale. And I became all about scaling my business. So, running Southern California with my partner and growing it at the level that we did, my branch was a $1.2 billion branch. We had 32 LOs in our branch. We were a very proactive branch. I led all the sales meetings. And so we were constantly educating them, but I had to start with me, right? I had to be the example for how to do it. So, and we didn't have all the technology that we have today. Like, it would have made it so much easier because you can build this stuff into your CRM system. But the reality is we did create systems, because I was doing 200 million in personal production with a team of 4 people. That's not that many people for that much volume, but we had people that were best in class. And I never gave up the pre-qual process, because I had trained myself on tax returns and I was a tax return maestro. I taught classes on tax returns to my branch. So I could calculate numbers very, very quickly. And most of my clients, probably like yours, Kevin, were self-employed, would be non-QM today borrowers. They were complicated borrowers. And I remember loan files this thick. So, but I could calculate the numbers. I had my first trusting conversation with the borrower. I got it down in my heyday to about 15 to 20 minutes tops. And I just led them through a process of asking the right questions, asking some bonding questions. It's all about relationship. And I just genuinely am curious about people and I love people. So I want to know their story. But the reality is then my last phrase was, you know, Mr. Borrower, I'm going to introduce you to Carrie, my rock star loan coordinator. Carrie is responsible for taking your loan through the process. And she's going to be your point of contact moving forward. Now, that's where LOs really have a hard time because the ego gets in the way. You know, they don't want to give up the control of the file because, look, I was the same way, right? Like it feels good to be needed. I'm a mortgage solution specialist. I want them to come to me. I hear this constantly from LOs. Well, look, they come to me for me. Well, my clients came to me for me too, but they'll come to you even more if you have a team and a system that is replicatable, where they know what that process is going to be. They know they're going to get communicated with. One of the things I did, which sounds kind of silly, but I see my lenses through marketing. Like I was had a marketing background. So I remember going, well, gee, we call our clients and the realtors, you know, I get 7 different milestones of the loan. We all kind of do that organically, right? But I turned it into the, you know, Ertman team 10-point communication plan. And I literally turned it into a marketing proposition so that when I was meeting with a realtor, and if they were a new realtor, I'd say, you know, Bob, one of the things I really look forward to if we have the opportunity to work together is to share my 10-point milestone communication plan, because my realtors love that they know every single milestone they're going to hear from us on, as do their clients, as does the listing agent. And in addition, we call you every Tuesday. So you are never going to have to call us for status on a file. And that has created a lot of trust with our referral partners. So I turned what we already did into a marketing value proposition, created a pretty flyer and like would actually email it to my clients and to my realtor partners, but I used it as a value proposition. Same thing with TBD approvals. We did TBD approvals, but no one ever really talked about it. Most companies do that, not all, but most do it in today's world. But we turned it into a value proposition where we went out and told everybody that we have this advanced approval process. We were putting our clients through full-blown approval. We could go up against all cash offers any day of the week, and we were winning against all cash because we had full-blown approvals. But we turned it into, we just shone a much brighter light around tools we already had. And I think we need to get back to that because 40% of our market was all cash. And I had to be able to go up against an all cash offer to win in Manhattan Beach, California. But one thing I thought I would do, Audrey, is I have a mortgage satisfaction assessment, as I call it. And I'd love to share with you all, and just you can take a look at really quickly some of the key buckets that, and I think it's important to really score yourself as to how you feel you're doing in the different areas, because there's a lot of different buckets that we have to check off the boxes to run a really sustainable and successful business. But I always say, you got to start foundationally first. Map out your flow and your process. And it's nothing more than you can sit down with a pen and paper, or if you've got team members, sit with the team and say, what happens when a lead comes in the door? One of my clients, Stacia Weishower, she's a rock star in the Pacific Northwest, and she built out what she calls the lead to legacy program. And that's from the moment the lead comes in the door to 1 year post-close. Every single path that loan touches. And for the first couple of years she built that program, every step had to be determined as to who is going to fill that gap, right? Because she had a small team. And as she went and built the team, she started putting people's names in there. So at first it was mostly her, then she hired an LOA, and then, you know, the LOA took over a lot of that steps. And today she has a team of 6 people, and she'll probably fund 200 million this year. She coaches for my company, but she built the system. And now, you know, it has given her a lot of flexibility because the team has a system to follow. I find that teams love it once you build the system. It's hard to adapt to change, but it makes it easier for everybody to know where that lead goes the minute you do your first prequal. Then what? Because what happened in 2020 and 2021, their leads were falling through the cracks because nobody had systems to manage the lead flow, right?
Right. What about the people that we talked to 6 months ago who thought rates were too high? What about them? Have we followed up with them? No. Let me just answer that for the masses. No. So like there are so many, and that's something we're going to be focusing on here. is having some people come and do presentations who are and helping people track their leads. How do you track your leads? I mean, how do you keep track of, all right, I called this person on this date. This is the next time I'm going to call them, right? So it's before, during, and after. And, but, you know, so I'm sure you have a great process. Yes.
Well, yeah, I mean, like I said, I didn't have CRMs at the time. We do now for my coaching business for sure, but we didn't, but we use an Excel spreadsheet. And I mean, honestly, it worked really effectively. So we did, you know, but today I'd probably use Jungo, or I'd use Be in Touch, or I would use another CRM to do it. I was talking to one of my clients last week in Denver. She's a massive producer. She's a broker there. And I've coached her for 8 years. And I started coaching her when she was about a $60 million a year producer in Southern California. And now she's about a $200 million a year producer in Denver. But she uses Jungo. And so the minute she has that first call, the minute she puts that lead into the system, it's auto, she gets triggered 4 times to stay in touch with that lead. And so she's not having to think about, okay, I got to call the lead. She's going to get the trigger that says you need to call Bob Smith today. And the good news is she actually does it. And then she has, you know, that's the key, right? And then when that loan closes, she has an automatic trigger that 30 days later, she calls the client, you know, to go over the first payment to make sure they got the payment, you know, and then she has a trigger at 4 months. And then she has a trigger at the 12-month annual mortgage review, which she does 100% of the time, which is how she got to 200 million, right? Systems and processes make it easier. And so when I would tell my clients, I'm going to introduce you to Carrie, my rock star loan coordinator, LOA, and that she's going to be your point of contact moving forward. And I would say, look, you don't want it to be me, because if you're talking to me, it means you got a problem on your loan. You want to be talking to her. But I lead the pipeline review meeting every single morning. I know exactly where your loan's at, but I'm the mortgage solution specialist. I solve the complex problems. But if you need status update on a loan, you're going to go to Carrie, and you're going to hear from her at the 10-point milestone communication plan, as well as every Tuesday, so that I wasn't getting status updates. And when people would reach out to me to get a status update, or they would text me, my response was, I'll have Carrie reach out to you and give you an update. I didn't answer them, because if I answered them, I always knew, then I was training them to come back to me. And I want to train them to go to the team so I can focus on relational and income activities each and every day.
I remember having that conversation with a client, because I had a new loan assistant, and they're giving me, you know, giving her crap because they want to talk to me. And she's like, no, you need to talk to me. And finally I go, here, let me talk to her. And I go, hey, why do you want to talk to me? Do you have a problem? She's like, well, not really, other than I want to talk to you. Go, well, see, I'm the problem solver. I go through all the loans every day and I solve the problems. Your loan doesn't have any problems, except that you want to talk to me, but I didn't say that part. You want to talk to Veronica. She's the one pushing your loan through the system. And you want her. She's better than me at doing that.
100%.
And that's what she does all day long. Me, when the problem gets stuck, she comes to me, I solve the problem. But you want her, as long as you're dealing with her, your loan is going through nice and smooth. And from that moment on, I didn't talk to that client again for a long time. So it's pretty funny.
Well,
it's great.
It's hard to say no, though, you know. So is there medication for that? Like, you know, if somebody wants something for me, I'm like, okay, let me help you. You know, it's hard to like distance easier.
It is, Audrey. I mean, I had it too, because we're all control freaks, you know, in the mortgage business. But this is the thing I realized, and I equate it to another similar challenge in my own life, because I raised 3 children, and yet I ran a branch at a huge mortgage business. And when I hired my nanny, it was the same kind of thing, right? You come home from work, you're like, oh, I want my kids to love me more than the nanny. And then I realized it's like, no, we want them to love us both, you know, and the only way I can do my job when I'm at work is to trust the nanny. And so I kind of equated it to that. But I realized when I really arrived as a leader in the mortgage industry was when my LOA was getting the closing gifts and I wasn't getting them anymore. Getting them is ego, right? It feels good. Of course, we all love that. But the reality is when my realtor partners was saying, Carrie's flipping amazing. I mean, I know, isn't she the bomb? Like, she's so great at her job. We love her so much.
Mhm.
And so, I mean, that's the key. You said to me before we got on this call, how much you love my director at my company, right? We want our people to love our people, and we are a team. And there's so much more power in the team than being the Lone Ranger and taking all the credit. And I also find that most of the time, people want to take the lead. They want you to trust them. And in not trusting them, we're not setting good examples. You know, we've got to be able to empower our team. I was on vacation last summer in Hawaii with a mortgage originator friend of mine, and she's complaining about her LOA. And that she's in the files, the loan officer's in the files all day long. And I said, well, is it because she can't do the job, or because you're not letting her do her job? And so I said, let's just call her right now. And she goes, I think she was shocked. I go, no, let's just call your LOA. So we got her, and we got her on the phone, and I said, okay, you've worked for Linda for 9 years. I assume you know how to get a loan from A to Z, right? She goes, of course I do. And I said, we got to get Linda back in the field, in front of realtor partners, in front of financial planners, and focused on building relationship. And I got to get her out of the files. She's not going to grow and expand without it. She goes, I have tried to get her out of files for the last 9 years. And if she would just trust me, I got the ball. And I did make her commit that day that she needs to get out of the files. She needs to trust her people and have their back if they make a mistake, because we all do it. But to scale your business, we have to give up control. And it is difficult. I'm not suggesting it's easy, but I'm going to share this really quick here.
Thank you.
And I'll run through this quickly, but just, and I'm happy to give you a copy of this if you want to share it.
Yeah, we can post it. We'll post this on YouTube with the video from today.
Great. So this is a mortgage satisfaction assessment I put together a few years ago. And what I want you to do, just grab a piece of paper. We'll do this really quickly, but no one's going to see this. Well, you can, we will have you put it in the chat if you feel so brave. But look, we all have it. We know that to run a mortgage business, it takes many different components. So I just want you to look at this really quickly. I want you to rate yourself 0 if you're not satisfied, up to 10 if you're super satisfied. And obviously, this changes every few months, depending upon how your business is changing and how the market changes. But I want you to really look at, are you satisfied with your referral partnerships right now? In 2020, most people were like, heck yes, because they had so many loans coming in. Today, not so much, because we have, fewer properties on the market. So we've got to expand our referral partnership. So rate yourself. How do you really score yourself on the number of referral partners you have real relationship with that are referring you when they do have opportunity? And then looking at personal production levels. Obviously, that's been way off for pretty much everybody across America. So most people are scoring themselves very low on personal production. Client experience, like we were just talking about, your process, your systems, and your flow. You all have one, right? But is it defined? Do people know what they're going to get? I interviewed Denise Donahue a couple of weeks ago on a webinar that I led, and Denise closed 600 units in 2022. She has an amazing process and flow, and it's mapped out, and she has 4 LOAs. And the realtors get the exact same experience regardless of which LOA. That's called a system and a process. And she's expanded her influence in a very big way. So think about your compelling client experience, because we need one. Like we used to call it in my team, the wow customer experience. And we mapped it out. What are we going to do when the client gets loan approval? Well, we sent a cute gift to them. When they had loan approval, we had a closing gift program. We had a follow-up program. Your marketing execution. This really fell off the boat in 2020 and 2021. No one marketed because no one needed more business. But then people forgot how, and social is only one component of marketing. But, I have a training that I do on how to build an annual marketing calendar. And that training was key, because we could spend 1 hour in December and map out our 12-month marketing calendar for the next year. We did a lunch and learn every quarter. We booked it a year in advance. I mean, we locked in our dates, I guess I should say. We did hard mail postcards once a quarter. I did them every month for probably 15 years. And then I cut back because I had 4,500 past clients. It got too expensive. So I went to quarterly. But I emailed my realtor partners on the 1st and the 15th of every month. I didn't rely on drip campaigns. I physically wrote an email that I would like push of a button in 10 minutes, I could get an email out. And it was in my calendar on the 1st and the 15th of the month. And then I emailed my past client database on the 1st of every month. I had systems around everything marketing, social media, when the posts were going to go out. I had a system for Testimonial Tuesday, like we had systems around our marketing. And for me, having systems makes it easy. And I think if it's easy and if it's in my calendar, I show up to my calendar. So a lot of the challenge with people is they don't show up for themselves. They don't show up for the time blocking. But I highly recommend, if you don't have a marketing plan, you really get clear about what you're going to do to market your business and start right now. How do you rate yourself on your own productivity? Because it really is about managing our energy. Are you going to work every day in your files, busy as can be, and not coming home with new transactions? Pre-qualing is great, but what are you doing to cast the wider net? How productive are you? That time blocking, one of my clients, he was here for a retreat about a month ago. He calls 70 people a week without question. 70 past clients, 70 realtor partners. He calls 70 people a week. He had 24 actual loans in process in January because he calls 70 people a week. My client in Denver, she calls 70 people. I don't know where that magic number came from, but that's a lot of people. Jeremy Forcier calls that many people per week, and he's been doing this for 30 years. So how productive are you? What?
Is he calling and speaking with them individually, or is he?
Yes, he's calling them individual. Well, he does a realtor mastermind. So like he does that, that's collective.
Okay.
But I think he's calling past clients and realtor partners.
Because you do things like slide dialing where you can blast out an email or a voicemail to all your.
You absolutely can. But I mean, really looking at, that I liked I didn't call it time blocking. I called it my growth hour, but I had a nail on the outside of my door because I physically worked in my office. I had a sign that just said, do not disturb Cindy's growth hour. And for that 10 to 11 a.m. every day, I focused on calling my realtor partners, and I had a system around it. I had a target list of 20 realtors, but I had 100 in my database that I emailed twice a month, and I would invite to, lunch and learns. But I had a hit list of 20 that liked and trusted me. And then I had a hit list of 20 that I didn't know that I wanted relationship with. And I rotated. On Mondays, I called 10 of the 20 that I had a relationship with and did a check-in on the weekend. On Wednesdays, I called 10 of the 20 that I wanted to get a meeting with, that I wanted to build and grow. So I'll come back to that because I have another strategy I can share with you quickly. But high impact team, I know it's been hard. I have a great training around, but the reality is a lot of people lost their team this last year due to lack of production. So the key now is to get back up to having enough production to at least have one viable team member, even if you have to share an LOA with another loan officer. I believe fully that to scale our business, we need a support person to help drive that file through the system. At least certainly most people do. Yes. And then we can't forget ourselves, right? We got to take care of ourselves. And that's what was so sad during 2020 and 2021. And it really carried through last year. I think partly why our mindset and the confidence got so debilitated is people were not taking care of themselves. They weren't eating properly. They weren't working out. They weren't, myself included. I hired a trainer in 2021. I hate exercise, but it's like, I have to do this for my own health and my own mental state. So I was coaching a client last week and I said, he's just feeling really, really, less than, I would say right now, of what happened last year and his lack of accomplishment. So I said, all right, we got to turn this around I got him really working on morning practices again, but are you taking care of yourself? And if not, what are you going to do to make a shift like right now? And they can be baby shifts, but start making shifts. And then work-life balance. Do you have non-negotiables around, what you're not willing to, like, I'll give you an example. Like I wanted to have family dinner with my kids every night because that's the way I was raised, is we had dinner as a family. That became a non-negotiable for me in my business. So I came home by 6:30. I had a nanny that I paid to help start dinner and set the table so we could eat dinner as a family. But I did that because that was a non-negotiable. I had kids in sports. I never missed a sporting event, non-negotiable. 2 weeks vacation every summer, non-negotiable. And it wasn't perfect. I didn't have a partner for many years. I'd get another LO to cover me and we'd rotate. So I'm not going to go through this whole thing, but I'll give it to you, Audrey, so you can distribute it. But this exercise just basically has you score yourself and then come up with one action step, just one thing you can do to elevate your score. We're not trying to go from 2 to 10, but let's go from 2 to 3. Maybe if it's your health, we want to go from 3 to 5, because without it, none of this matters, right?
Yep. You know, something you said is something I've been working on, and that's getting back to my making my phone calls on a regular basis. And as you were saying it, I realized, you know, it's difficult to make one phone call. It's just as difficult to make 3 phone calls. Making 10 or 20 phone calls in a day is easy, because once you get after the first 3, the rest are simple. You're in the mode.
You just nailed it. The
Yeah.
resistance is in that first call. So
Uh-huh.
we resist. But once you may have made the 3rd call,
Uh-huh.
now you're in
In the
a
mode,
rhythm.
go next. And you have no fear of failure because you just had 3 successes. So it's like, oh, whatever, you know, what's the worst going to happen now? And so when I was doing it, I'd always had the person that it was the easy call was the one I would make first. So my favorite realtor would be the one I would make that realtor call to. And then it was towards the end of it. Now I'm calling complete strangers, and it doesn't hurt. Like, you're not scared. Like, there's no fear of being turned away. So it's
Right. And this is the thing. The fear isn't real. Look, I mean, I was just on stage, and I won't tell the whole story, but telling a story of my first day in mortgage. And I worked for a bank. So I had a closed territory. I was giving 4 real estate offices. I couldn't call on anyone besides those 4 offices. And I, like an idiot, called the number 1 producer first, like one day on the job. I couldn't use my calculator. I didn't know how to calculate a payment. And he hung up on me. And I started to cry. It was, you know, a lot of years ago. And because I was literally reading a script, I had no idea. I had no business calling the number 1 producer in Los Angeles. And then I got my composure together. And then I thought, okay, what do I do now? And I go, I'm going to drive to his office. Now, this is the difference, I think, between me and most people. Most people wouldn't drive to the office of the realtor that just hung up on them. But I drove to this man's office, and I told the receptionist that we got disconnected. So I thought I would just come over and talk to him live. And he came out and started laughing because he knew he hung up on me. And I was like, well, we got disconnected. So I thought we should continue this conversation in person. He goes, let's go to lunch. We went to lunch, and there's a whole lot of other story that went with this. But the reality is, 2 weeks later, he called me to come work an open house with him in Brentwood, California. He sold that house at the open house, and my career took off because my first agent was the number 1 realtor in Los Angeles. And he said, I'll give you the first deal because you were tenacious to show up on my doorstep. But after that, you better be good.
It was either that or a restraining order. So good for you. That is amazing. Love that story. We're not doing that right now, right? It's so easy to get into these, and we've all slipped into them, you know, like, you don't have to leave your house. You don't have to do anything. You don't have any structure. Oh, I don't have any business. No. You can't accept that as your reality. You have to change your reality. And I think shifting from the 2022 mindset into, oh yeah, that's right, I close loans for a living. That's what I do. I mean, we got to do something to snap ourselves back into that mindset.
100%. And give people, I mean, just don't take yourself so seriously. You know, Audrey, like we make this so serious. I got one of the number 1 producers in Manhattan Beach, my partner and I, to work with us because we went and met with him, and he goes, well, I'm in a habit of working with Wells Fargo, and I'm just in a habit. So if you want to work with me, you're going to have to bug me. So every Monday morning we would email, in the subject line, it would say, we're bugging you. And we would send
Right.
him, we're bugging you email weekly, and we kind of played with it a little bit. And then we text him, we're bugging you. But sure enough, one day we get a call and got a $1.4 million deal from him. And so, I mean, and partially you mentioned earlier about when I was talking about my CPA that I hadn't asked for the business. But one of my best realtors came from being at a physical therapist with my head down in the cradle and me going, I bet you work on a lot of realtors here locally, don't you? And he goes, oh, I work with them all, And so he starts throwing out names and I go, yeah, I know her. And yeah, I know her. And then he gives me the name of this guy, Charlie. And I didn't know Charlie. And I go, well, tell me about Charlie. So he's telling me about Charlie. He's a newer realtor, but he's like, he's going to be a big fish. And I said, well, will you give me Charlie's number? And they don't follow like medical constraints like doctors do. So anyway, he gives me Charlie's number on a sticky note. And I called Charlie. I go, you'll never guess how I got your name and your number. I go, my head was face down at Vince's office in physical therapy for my neck problem. And sure enough, within a week, I had a meeting with Charlie and got over $1 million deal from him in the first week and went on to have a very long-term relationship with Charlie. But that came from I also, when I started my database and I was new, I started with my friends and family. And a lot of people don't actually market to their friends and family. My Christmas card list and my friends and family list includes my dentist, my hygienist, my OBGYN, my general practitioner, any service provider that is in my life, because they buy houses too. And when I didn't have realtor partners at the beginning, I used my friends and family as my network. All my kids' friends, I had a sports team database for years because you meet all the parents of the sports team, right? So we're not using the sphere we make it too hard. And what I like to do is make it simple, because if it's simple, originators will actually execute on it. And then to your point, Kevin, people will get some traction. Mm-hmm. One of my other favorite exercises, and you don't need the exercise, I'll just talk you through it, but it's kind of what you were saying. You call the people you like first, right? And so I want you guys, if you just do this one thing, if you do this one exercise, I promise you'll get traction. I tested everything that I would do before I'd roll it out to my branch or Loan Toolbox nationally. I would test it in my own market and go, let's see if this works. So, but I do it as everything is a system. So pick 5 realtors. If you've been doing this for a while, if you have 5 referral partners, doesn't even have to be realtors that like, and trust, and that know, like, and trust you. And you call those 5 people and you'd say, hey, Kevin, this is Cindy Ertman, Senior Vice President of RPM Mortgage. I wanted to touch base with you because, as you know, you are one of our favorite referral partners. Like, we absolutely know, love, and trust working with you. And we just have appreciated our relationship more than you will ever know. But we really want to increase our purchase business this year because it just brings us such great joy to help people achieve their dream of home ownership. I would love to get the name of a couple of realtors that like, and trust. People that you've done transactions with, you think are great at what they do. We're not looking for, quantity. We're looking for quality. But would you be willing to share a couple of names of people, either in your office or that you've done a transaction with in this last year? Because I'd love to just build our purchase business, because it definitely, given the market conditions, has been slower. And it would mean the world to us if I could get a couple names. So the very first time I made my very first call was to a woman here in Manhattan Beach. Her name is Tara. And Tara had just moved to Sotheby's at the time. And she said, well, as a matter of fact, I sit in a pod with these 3 other amazing women. And Sarah just closed 3 deals this week alone. She goes, yeah, I'll introduce you to them. They're great. And so I said, that would be fantastic. And I said, could I get their numbers from you? And I said, could I use your name? And she's like, yeah, of course. So then 10 minutes go by, Tara calls me and she goes, I have a better idea. Why don't you just invite them to lunch and I'll come too, and I'll get them to all come. We'll go to lunch together. This is the first time I try this, by the way. Well, to this day, my mortgage partner still works with 2 of those 3 that we had lunch with that day. Wow. And that's how easy it was. The second person I met with was a local builder, and he's a friend, and I did business with him. And we had a great trusted relationship. So I took Dennis to lunch and I asked Dennis that question. We know, like, and trust you. You're such a great partner. Who do you know that could benefit from knowing us? Like, we need to expand our purchase business. He gave me 8 names at his office, 8. I knew 3, but there were 5 I didn't know. I said, can I use your name? And he goes, of course. And so I called him and said, hey, I just had lunch with Dennis. He said that you are incredible, that he really has great respect for you. And I told Dennis, we really are looking to build our purchase business this year. And it would mean the world to me if I could come by and spend 15 minutes with you and learn a little bit more about you and your business. And all but one said yes. You know, and of course, this doesn't work unless you actually call the people that you get the names of, right?
Yeah, I noticed that seems to be a common theme is you have to pick up the phone and do something.
Yes.
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 Yeah.
That is
amazing,
the easiest strategy that you can do. To this day, my really good girlfriend, Ann, is a realtor here, and we get together probably twice a month. And she would tell you, if she was sitting on this video right now, every year I ask Ann the same question for probably like the last 8 years. Hey, who do you know in your office that needs to know my past team, right? That handles, like, who do you know? And every year she'll give me like 2 different people, because I'll say, who did you do an escrow with this year that you really liked? Because she's a friend and she knows, likes, and trusts us. And she'll give me a couple names. So it's the gift that keeps on giving. You can ask it over and over of the same people if they know, like, and trust you. And you can do that with a financial planner. You can do that with your CPA. You know, it's not, because everybody knows realtors, right? It's
right. We have a request in here. Would Sydney be willing to share her list of questions for financial planners? Is that something you can share, or no?
I don't usually share that because it's a whole hour-long training that I do around that, how to get the meeting. And there is a method to the madness, if you will. But I mean, I think that the basic premise of it is really just that you're calling financial planners and telling them that you're really searching for a great financial planner that, because what I did is I built a resource guide. So let's start there. And I suggest you do this if you haven't. I kept a resource guide, which was nothing more than an Excel spreadsheet. But I kept a resource guide of, just like a realtor would do, handymen, anybody and everybody that could support my client base. And so I called financial planners and said, look, I just realized I don't have a great financial planner on my resource guide, and I want to be the go-to resource for my clients. And I'm a pretty successful mortgage originator. So I would love to be able to meet with you, Mr. Financial Planner, and learn a little bit more about your business, what kind of referrals you're looking to receive. Some of the questions I asked were things like, so this is my sort of secret sauce, you guys. It's less about the questions and it's more about connection. So I do a lot of trainings around how to connect with people on a deeper level. And those questions are things like, so tell me how long you've been a financial planner. What made you choose financial planning instead of another financial advisory job? There's, like, you could have become a mortgage professional or a realtor, but why did you choose financial planning? What are the biggest challenges you're facing in your business right now? How has this market affected you? How do you market your business? How do you get your referrals? Do you use a database management system? Do you have an in-house lender that you work with, or do you have somebody you have a relationship with? How do you bill your services? Are you getting money per trades, or do you pay a percentage? Like, how are you, what does your first meeting look like? Who's your favorite client? I just ask questions to build rapport. And then my last question is, if this were to work and we built a trusted relationship, which would always be my goal, would you be open to a reciprocal relationship if we really built a relationship based on trust? And they always say yes. So
the bottom line is, get your systems together, put a plan in place, and reach out and be proactive. Is that a decent summary?
100%. And even if you're not, even if you're uncomfortable meeting with people live, one of my best clients, she's building a virtual branch. And so she meets with everybody on Zoom. And a couple of weeks ago, she ordered coffee for her potential new realtor partners, had a quick little PowerPoint she put together on the state of the financial market. and got meetings with new realtors to educate them on the state of the financial market and how to get your buyer to a yes. And then she sent them coffee via DoorDash and had 7 meetings in one day on Zoom. So, but she's getting in front of people consistently. And this is the thing. One of my other clients, different client in Seattle, she started calling real estate offices and just saying, hey, you know, would you be open to having me come in and educate your office? Or, you know, if you have Zoom meetings, I'm willing to do it there, but would you let me come in and educate you on what's going on with the financial markets? I really want to help your realtors be able to educate their buyers on why they need to say yes to real estate right now. And she had, I think, 4 live meetings in 1 week. And her goal is to be in front of 9 people a week, no matter what. And those are the people that are gaining success in a challenging market.
Exactly. So the business is out there. I just want to briefly, Mark had asked, do you have the best online calculator for self-employed and business returns? And I would suggest going to the MI websites. Most of them have really good calculators for self-employed and business returns. So that's where I would head if I were you, Mark. And as we wrap up, I just want to say, so Jill had shared her findings with us, but again, we'll get the assessment from Cindy. We'll put it into the YouTube. We'll embed it in there. And then Cindy, we're done. Like, we're at the top of the hour, for goodness sake. It went fast. So we want to say thank you so much. And
that went by like in 3 minutes.
I know.
Well, you guys, if anyone wants information, please reach out at CINDY, CindyErtman.com, CINDYERTMAN.com. And I really encourage you, we have a little schedule your free strategy call up at the corner. And I would really encourage you. I have an amazing team. They really do coach you on those strategy calls. They really are listening to your biggest challenges. It's a 30-minute call where they want to provide value. Yes, they'll give you some information regarding my coaching programs, but we have an entry-level program that's Millionaire Mortgage Club. That's $97 for the first month. So you can try us out. No contract, no obligation. We have 2 different levels of private coaching. And then I have a very high level mortgage mastermind elite, which I'm down to 3 spots, and we start in March. That's one of my favorite things. And if you're looking at that, if you're a originating branch manager, you're really looking to grow at a higher level and you're very experienced, I will be doing that call with you myself because those people are all handpicked by me. But I have loved being part of this. Thank you for having me as a guest. So fun to be with you. Good to see you both.
We want to just read a couple of these comments. I love this story. You are a beast, Cindy. A beast. That's a compliment. Just so you know.
Thank you.
Someone else started to work. Oh, such good information. Thank you all. And your website is in there, CindyErtman.com. We actually have a colleague who's coaching with you and was saying how great it was. Oh, here's another one. Cindy's the bomb. I love how like beast and bomb are now cute compliments, right? So your contact information is in here, and
the website is Cindy,
and I'll get
it's CINDY and last name is ERTMAN. So it's CindyErtman.com.
Nice.
And we've got our contact info in there.
So go to our website, www.mortgagepros411.com. There's a link to our YouTube site from there, or you can register. Make sure you subscribe to YouTube and join us next Tuesday. We have Dave Stevens joining us. We love him so much. He is just a wealth of information, a great guy. So anyway, we'll look forward to seeing you then. And Cindy, again, thank you so much. Kevin,
thank you all. Have a great day. Bye.
Bye-bye.